Hey everybody, welcome to my front porch here in Maui. You can see the Pacific Ocean right in the background. I wake up to this view every morning. I'm hoping you all are having a beautiful summer, as beautiful as you can imagine. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited because Mr. Hinton is here, and he is the author of this incredible book called The Sun Does Shine. He came with his best friend, Lester, and Lester's wife, Sylvia. They arrived yesterday, and everybody who works around here, all of my staff, all of my friends who are here, everybody's read the book, and we were just so excited. Mr. Hinton's coming, Mr. Hinton's coming. But then I woke up this morning thinking, I can't imagine what Anthony Ray Hinton has been through, and don't actually want to imagine it for myself. But when you think about for yourself, when somebody lies on you or says something about you that isn't true, or even just trolls you in social media with stuff that is not accurate, how upsetting that is. So can you imagine how upsetting it would be to have somebody tell a lie about you that costs you 30 years of your life? That is what happened to Anthony Ray Hinton. Thanks for joining me on the porch.
Thanks for having me. Beautiful here.
It's beautiful here.
Yes.
I just, I'm going to open this up for everybody who's watching us live on Facebook around the world, but I just wanted, can you enjoy it? Are you at a point in your life now where in this beautiful space, and I have to say Maui is one of the most beautiful places on earth, can you actually receive it?
I can at times. And I think like anything in life, you can enjoy a part of it, and then a part of it shut back down.
Yeah.
My mind still goes back to death row, and 30 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And if anything, you don't forget what you went through in 30 years, whether it was up and good, whether it was bad. And most of 30 years for me was bad, pure hell. I can't explain what it's like to live on a 5x7. But the most thing about it is you're there because someone lied on you, as you said earlier. Someone knew that they was lying on you, knew that they was perhaps going to get you convicted and sentenced to death. And it makes you wonder what type of people could do another human being like that.
Yeah, and the fact that you will never, ever, ever, ever get your life back.
No.
You can't get those 30 years back. So we're taking your questions. I have some already. Julie H. from Westbrook, Maine asks, how has this experience, given you were wrongly convicted, impacted your sense of trust in others, and how does this inform you moving forward?
Well, to be honest with you, I was come up trusting people until they gave me a reason not to trust.
Yeah.
And when this happened, and since I was on death row, I only trust two people, and that's Lester and Bryan Stevenson. It's sad because
Bryan Stevenson, the lawyer.
Lawyers that work diligently to prove my innocence. And it makes me really hurt inside that I no longer have that freedom
to trust
people.
Yeah.
Because trust was something that I gave, and then here a few men came and just took it away. They didn't just take it away from me, they took it away from other people that I would love to trust. And you don't know who really have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And you don't know what they're thinking. And so I just try my best to not think about, I let people say and do whatever they want, but when it come down to decision, I always go to Mr. Stevenson.
Yeah.
And I said, what is you think the best? Because at the end of the journey or anything, I don't want to have to go back to him and not say, well, why you didn't tell me this?
Yeah. There are comments that the camera is shaking. Keith, stop shaking the camera, could you please? Is that you? Huh? The camera's shaking. Keith is my photographer here. I don't have. Sorry, y'all. Your hands look pretty steady to me, but I don't know what to tell you. If you can bring that stand closer, maybe you could. Then that's going to take up a whole lot of things. Just try to hold it steady if you can, Keith. I just called you out. Elizabeth Lesser wants to know, it's so striking that you on death row, isolated from seeing and relating to other humans for so many years, had more exposure to men of a different color and upbringing than many people on the outside do. And it was that exposure that changed the hardened hearts of men. How do we I guess she means we as a society, we as a culture, open our circles of friendship and family so that we can work on each other's hearts. You actually said at dinner last night, I thought this was so meaningful. You said, I'm not even trying to change people's minds.
Absolutely.
I just want to open and change people's hearts.
Yes.
So how do we all start to do that? Elizabeth Lesser wants to know.
Well, I think you have to start by being honest with one another. We can't lie to one another. We have to be just point blank honest. And being on death row, after being sentenced to death, all of us had the same sentence, and we had no reason to lie to one another. You just can finally be free to tell the truth.
Because you often say, and you say it in the book, and I've heard you say it here, you were saying it on the porch last night as we were all talking, that there was no racism on death row.
No, all of us wore the same clothes, wore the same type of boots, ate the same breakfast, the same lunch, the same dinner. Whenever we was allowed outside, we all had the same 15, 30 minutes, whatever they gave us. And so there was nothing to be jealous of another human being for. And you have to remind yourself, we all had one thing in common, there's nothing else. We all had been condemned. Yeah. And society say, hey, we'll be better off if none of you were here. And so that is one of the things I think that kept racism from being existing on death row. Is the fact that we all had the same.
Yeah, and another thing that actually allowed you to survive was your vivid imagination and your ability to do what in the psychology world or psychiatric world is called actually disassociate, really to take yourself out of this moment and be somewhere else. So much so, I just saw that Patrick just asked, how was your marriage to Halle Berry?
Well, my marriage to Halle Berry was beautiful.
In your mind?
In my mind for 15 long, beautiful years. Halle Berry was, I have to say, the perfect wife. She always said, yes, dear, and okay, dear. And she was a force of support. Yeah. And I was just able to take my mind and just go wherever I wanted to go.
Yeah. Somebody named, hi, Renisha Wilson, who asks, how has this elevated your faith?
Well, my faith, even more so today than it was then. Yeah. I am a witness. I don't know if people are familiar with a story in the Bible about a man called Job. Yep. And Job lost everything as well, and God gave him that back and more. I didn't have anyone say, well, you ought to cuss God and go and let the state of Alabama execute you. But faith is something that my mom taught me as a little boy from the age of 4 years old.
What would justice be for you now? Jan Mitchell wants to know.
Well, I don't think there can ever be true justice. I think true justice would be the state of Alabama first admitting that they made a mistake. And justice is not just for me, it's for the victim family as well. And so they deserve some justice. And so until...
They deserve to hear from the state of Alabama, this man did not do this to your family members.
Absolutely.
We still don't know who did this to your family members. And to this day, the thing that's so upsetting to me is that not one person has apologized from the state of Alabama. And obviously, no apology means that they've not compensated you in any way. And even now, making it difficult to get your Social Security.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't paid
wrong.
I hadn't paid anything in the system for over 30 years. So I have nothing to draw out of the system. And so every day I have to get up, and at the age of 62, I have to still get up and try to grind like I'm just starting over.
Yeah, that's why I want everybody to buy. Would y'all just buy the book if you don't have it already, so that Mr. Hinton can at least have some happy days in his life? Buy the book. If you don't want to read it, pass it on to somebody else. And I, of course, am getting no money from the book, so don't think I'm telling you about it. I just want him, first of all, I want you to read the story. I want people to know the story, and I want them to know that there are hundreds of other Anthony Hintons out there. The estimation is that at least a quarter of the men who are on death row should not be there, are there because they were poor and didn't have the lawyers and didn't have, the support. Absolutely. And that's why, killing people and then figuring out later on we killed the wrong person. We have to ask who we are as a nation if we're doing that. James Van Echo, great quotes from your mama. What he says, you have lots of great quotes. And what's your favorite?
My favorite is that my mom would tell me, you are not responsible for how people treat you,
Yeah.
but you are responsible for how you treat others. And I think that is how I was able to forgive those that did this to me because of what she told me as a young boy. And they have to give an account for their own action. And I truly believe that judgment day will come for whoever think they're doing something despite racism or whatever. Those men will pay a price one day if they haven't already paid the price.
Rich Cruz just asked, does anything upset you now? Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Very few things upset me because being on death row for 30 years gave me the opportunity to really realize what's important in life. And there's nothing more important than waking up first, finding the blood still running warm in your vein, and to get up and realize that you have friends and family. And I think that enjoying friends and family is the most important thing it is.
Yeah, you know, it's so interesting because we now have had a couple of meals together, and Mr. Hinton had told me that when he was in prison, the biscuits would come in the morning. They were so hard you could throw them against the wall, and they would crack the wall. So this morning we had biscuits. The first thing I did was test the biscuits, make sure the biscuits weren't too hard. But you actually made a decision. That's why I think that your life, even though 30 years were stolen from you, and nobody can repay that. No. Not even no amount of money can repay that, although it would be good, state of Alabama, that he received some. But you said you actually made a decision 3 years in, after you got your voice back and could speak, and realized that this is my situation. You just made a decision.
Yes, I made a decision. You know, there was nothing I could do about being convicted. And I had to rely on someone else, hopefully, would come along and take up my case. But my decision was to live. I knew I wasn't where I was supposed to be. I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be. But I knew I had to create a life there in order for me to survive.
In a 5x7 cell.
I had to. Because if you don't, then you will find yourself hanging like other men did. You have no hope. And I just had
and 11 men hung themselves.
And I just had to find something inside of me that would make me live a life. And I never was, to be honest, in that 5x7 mentally. I was gone every day. Every day I was gone somewhere.
You take yourself in your own mind.
Yes, I went to England, visit the Queen. I went to Paris. I went to France. I had wine, and the best wine. And I'm not a drinker, but I drank some in my mind when I was in France and Paris, and I had dinner with some of the most beautiful women in the world and had some of the best conversation with dignitaries. And so I
in
felt
your mind.
In my mind. I mean,
did people think you were nuts?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, some of the guards used to tell my friend Lester, you really need to tell this lawyer that he don't lost his mind. I mean, I come back and
Did you think you'd lost your mind at some point?
No.
No.
I didn't. I mean, this is what
you did to save yourself.
Save myself.
Yeah.
And no one else was reaching to save me at that particular time. And so until someone was reaching down to help me, I had to try to do whatever I could to save myself.
I love Lindsay from Los Angeles who asked, you were out of society for 30 years. Besides technology, have you noticed a change in our culture, how people relate or treat each other?
Yes, I think people treat each other worse than when I went in. And what I've noticed since I've been home is that they don't have any time and communicate one-on-one. Everything now is done by cell phone, texting, and all of that. I had the privilege of going to a few colleges, and even at dinner, the student was on their phone and texting, and there is no communication. My friend and Lester and I, we have dinner, restaurant, sometimes we have it at my house, his house. We never be on the phone. Yeah. We talk to each other verbally.
Yeah.
And I think we as a society have lost that, especially with your kids. Everybody's on a different page now.
Yeah, literally on a different text page.
Absolutely.
I hear Gail's watching from New York, and Gail just wanted to ask, what would it take for you to trust again?
Whew. I really can't say it. I think it's going to take time. 3 years will not undo what 30 years have done. Mm-hmm. But I promise you, I am trying every day to get to a place where I can trust, where I can see people for who they are and not what I think they are. And so when you've been just done the way I was done, I hope people understand it's hard to give another human being that type of trust.
Yeah.
And my mom brought me up so trust the authority, trust people of authority, and you trust people of authority like the police.
That's why you believe when those policemen took you away, you thought, as soon as
absolutely.
I tell you I didn't do it, and as soon as you check my alibi,
Absolutely.
and certainly as soon as I do the lie detector
Absolutely.
test, you all are going to know that I'm not your guy.
Absolutely.
So were you aware that racism was that strong? Was
No.
that hateful? Was
No.
that you lived your whole life as a black man in Alabama? Had you not felt the fierce hold that racism has on the culture? Had you not felt it?
No. Even when we was going to school, we would have some come by, picks up trucks and holler words of insanity and turn around and try to scare us. But we lived in a community where we didn't feel racism, and especially when it came to the police authority. We really thought what our parents had instilled in us, that these are your friends. They will, if you're in trouble, find an officer. If you get lost when you go somewhere,
the police
find an
officer was the authority that you go to help you.
Absolutely. It's like
Yeah, that's how I was
going
raised
to
too.
your school teacher.
Yeah.
You felt that was a person you can talk to and tell them
Yeah.
something. But I had no idea until this. And I thought, really and truthfully, to be honest with you, I thought the authority would be more interested in finding the right perpetrator.
The right guy.
And so I had no fear until I realized that they wasn't about justice.
They were going to frame you.
They framed me.
That they were going to frame you. Marissa Garnier Tigney asks, how has your friendship with Lester lasted? Lester's here, y'all. Lester, pull up a chair. Come on in here. You tell us, how has the friendship lasted? Yeah. Hi, Lester. Welcome to our Facebook Live on the Porch.
How are you today?
All right, good today. Good
Great,
today.
great, great.
Good. So how has your friendship lasted? Well, first of all, you didn't miss a weekend, y'all. Not a weekend in 30 years did he miss showing up for his best friend. I said to my bestie, Gail, I said, I know you would. Gail would have been there for me for every weekend. And I said, I would have been there for you too every weekend. I might have missed a couple of weekends in 30 years though, but not a weekend in 30 years. So why has this friendship lasted?
Well, our faith and trust in God and our faith and trust in each other, knowing that in a time of need, you need someone to stand by your side.
Yeah.
And him being the guy that he was and the guy that I am and the way we was brought up, that's what we look forward to
Y'all have
seeing
known each other how long?
57 years now.
Yeah. So how old were you when you first met?
I was 4 and he was 6.
4 and 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Y'all used to walk home from school.
Yes.
When.
Football practice, basketball practice.
Yeah. And when I remember this scene you paint so vividly in the book, a truck comes down the road because there was a period of time, may still be in some parts of the country, where if you're two lone black boys on a road, a truck full of white men come by, you better make yourself scarce. And you guys jumped in the ditch.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And at that time, we was not as small as we are now. We could run faster.
Very agile.
Very agile. Yeah.
We always had a plan to run up in the woods if necessary. And there were some days we really did just lay down in the ditch and they would come back and see where we was and they couldn't find us. We would get up and go on home.
So you knew then to be afraid of white men in trucks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're alone, as two black boys on the road. Yeah.
The racial slurs they was throwing, they was bad enough, but sometimes they throw
So you
beer
knew
cans.
that there was racial antagonism, but you never expected this.
No. Not when it comes to the justice system. Just think about it. Justice is supposed to be about finding the guilty person, not about just going out and finding any black person at random.
Yeah.
And to me, this was just a random, because I want people to look at my case. Don't take my word for it. Read it, and then ask yourself, how in the world did this man get convicted?
But again, remind us of what the police officer said to you in the car when you kept asking him, tell me, what am I being arrested for? And he said? He
said, we're charging you with first-degree robbery, first-degree attempted murder, and first-degree kidnap. I said, well, I haven't done any of that. He said, let me tell you something. I don't care whether you did it or didn't do it. I'm going to make sure you found guilty of it. And I said, for a crime I didn't commit. He said, you must have a hearing problem. Didn't I just tell you I don't care whether you did it or didn't do it? And as we drove a little further down the road, He said, by the way, there's 5 things that are going to convict you. Would you like to know what they are? And I said, yes. He said, number 1, you black. Number 2, a white man is going to say you shot him. Whether you shot him or not, he said, I really don't care. Number 3, you're going to have a white DA. Number 4, you're going to have a white judge. And number 5, you're going to have an all-white jury. And he looked at me and he said, do you know what that spells? And he repeated the word conviction, 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 conviction. And
at the time, you didn't believe it, though, right?
Oh, no. I thought, you know, they would get to a point where they go and test with it, the gun, they would find out that I was at work at this particular time, this particular day, and just come back and say, Mr. Hinton, you're free to go. We're sorry for the
That's why you were so happy that you had a white alibi.
Absolutely. I cannot today even put on the smile that I had when I told him, when he told me the date the crime that took place. I said, thank God. I said, thank you, Jesus. I said, I have a white supervisor. He can tell you I was at work. And I said, oh, thank you, Jesus. And I thought by him being white, he would tell them, they would come back and say, hey, you're free to go.
Well, they actually did. They
well,
said,
he did
yes,
tell them.
We know,
absolutely.
Okay, you know, good news and bad news.
Absolutely.
We know now you were at work, you didn't commit that crime,
absolutely.
But now we're going to charge you with these other 2 crimes.
And the thing that got me, and to this day, he said, we have decided that now we're going to charge you with 2 counts of first-degree capital murder. I said, but I haven't killed anyone. I said, what you mean? He said, let me tell you something. He said, I truly believe you didn't do it. He said, but y'all is always taking the rap from one another.
Y'all.
He said, take this rap for your homeboy. And I, with tears coming down my eyes, I said, detective, there's not a homeboy, not even Lester. I wouldn't have took that rap for Lester. Yeah. I'd have came seen Lester, but I wouldn't have took that rap for Lester. I said,
he'd come see Lester, but he wasn't going to take the rap for that. I agree with that.
I said, but there's not a homeboy in this world I would take a rap for like that.
Lester, you never doubted from the moment you heard that he was in jail. And what is amazing to me, astounding, not amazing, what is astounding to me is that you are carried from your home in handcuffs. You say goodbye to your mother, and you never see your home again. You don't even, you're not, arraigned and then charged and let out on bail. Or let out on bail and then come back with a charge. You are removed from your home.
Yes.
Water, out there mowing the lawn, and you never see your home again for 30 years. You never doubted, though.
Never doubted one moment.
When you heard he was in jail for murder, yes, you thought what?
But I knew he couldn't have done anything like that, number one. And I said, well, it just takes a matter of time, to go through the system like they do on TV, as they put it, Mm-hmm. You get your alibi, and then they find out,
you
they
didn't
keep
do
you
it
for a few hours, find out you didn't do it, then they let you go.
But you were sitting in that courtroom when the conviction of murder, and now he's going to be sentenced to death. You were in that courtroom. You're in that courtroom with his mother, your mother at the time. He actually says in the book, The Sun Does Shine, it's called Angela. You went blind for a moment. Absolutely. When you heard the sentence. What were you doing when you heard that your friend now has been sentenced to death row for a crime you truly believed and knew in your heart he didn't do?
Yes, for a few minutes. I was in a state of shock also. I could not believe they came back with a conviction like that, with the circumstance of what it was, and really didn't have any proof of anything. How could the system get it wrong at that point?
Yeah. So I want to know, 30 years, as I said, is a long time. I'd be there for you, Gail, but every weekend, I know, some weekend I'd be tired. And you were working a job.
Yes,
working
ma'am.
What shift?
Third shift most of the time.
Working, that's 3 to 7?
11 to 7.
11 to 7, that's
Mm-hmm.
11 to 7. Thank you, I never worked third shift before. Yeah. Thank you. 11 to 7, you get off at 7 on a Saturday morning and drive
down
230-some miles.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To see him,
yes,
and then drive back. This is after you've worked all night, y'all.
Yes.
After he's worked all night long, get off the shift at 7 in the morning, drive 200 miles, meet with him for a couple of hours, and then turn around and go back.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you, at the time though, you didn't know it was going to be 30 years?
No matter the
so
time, it actually creeps up on us,
It creeped up on you.
Yes,
He
look.
creeped up on you.
It creeped up on you.
But what I mean about the time did, because we was looking forward to seeing and visiting with each other. It wasn't nothing we could do about either of the situations, and all we could do was enjoy the moment, and that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
And like I said, we just know this thing. Time had flown.
So is it just like that just became a part of your life? Every Saturday morning when I get off of my shift, I'm going to drive
Just
down there,
look
no matter how
forward, yes.
tired I am.
That's what we look
There
forward
had to be
to.
some times you were tired though,
Yeah.
Lester.
It wasn't an easy trip, but as long as I got some cold water, I can go.
Cold water and
Cold
keep the
water.
windows
Yes,
down.
ma'am. Mhm.
Play the music up loud
Yes.
and get there.
Well, I would tell him, listen, don't come when you're being worked all night, and just wait when you can get off for a day, and try to come then if you can. But he had his schedule fixed where he would come, and I felt so bad that after my visit was over, he would be going, and I was worried, did he make it home? Would he fall asleep?
Would he fall asleep on the road?
Yes,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, when Sylvia didn't come with him, he had to come by himself, and that's a long drive. I mean, a long drive.
Yeah. How many hours is that driving one
Right,
way?
right at 3 hours.
3 hours driving one way.
It depends on the traffic. 3 hours mostly.
Yeah.
We did it in 2.5 sometimes. Depends on the spotters.
Did it ever occur to you like this weekend I don't feel like it? I don't know if I'm gonna go.
No, there was never a time for a visit that I felt bad. I always look just look forward to it.
Really?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you all, you were telling me at dinner last night that you all would be carrying on so at the
Yes.
table that people
Yes.
wonder what's going on.
Well, again, in my mind, I wasn't there, but I was there when he came. And he came to what I had adopted as my house. And when we was taught, when someone come to your house, you entertain them.
Uh-huh.
You make them feel at home.
Yeah.
And did I ever make him feel at home?
Yes.
And so we would be sitting there and just laughing, and one of the other death row inmates would come say, hey, my mom said, can they come sit over here? And I said, tell her she don't want to sit at this table. And first, not only
Yeah.
that, it was against the rule to mix.
Yeah.
You have to stay at your own
Yeah.
seat. But I just would be telling them about little things that happened on the road, and some of the dumb things that officer would be on said, and
Yeah.
and he would get a big laugh.
Somebody
out of
asked, were there any staff, I don't know who asked this, somebody just asked, were there any staff at prison with compassion?
it. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good people work in bad jobs. But as a fellow death row inmate, I'm glad that it was some good officer work there. You need good officer to sometimes balance the bad officer.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I won't sit here and lie and bash the officer. They was decent officers.
Yeah. Tell us about the time one of them said that their mother-in-law died unexpectedly.
Oh.
That was funny. You said that at dinner last night.
I was sitting there, and the officer come by counting. He looked at me, and I said, hey, how you doing? And he said, oh, I'm not doing too good today, Anthony. I said, well, what's your problem? He said, well, my mother-in-law died unexpectedly. And where in the hell was you expecting her to die? I mean, that particular day I had a visit, and I went out there to Lester. I said, you won't believe this
Yeah.
here. I said, officer told me this morning that his mother-in-law died unexpectedly. And I said, to be honest with you, do white people know when they gonna die? We don't. I said, so, he laughed about an hour off of it. He said, man, you just as crazy as you want to be. I said, man, you won't believe the stuff that go on back there. And the officer tell you some crazy thing. And that's how I made my day. I become like this comedian, and I would take whatever they say, and I would get on the vision yard, and I wouldn't let him nor Sylvia think about my situation.
Well, you know what is so interesting? You were saying to us earlier at dinner last night that you created your own family on death row.
I did.
That you did. And that, not only did you create your own family, you become like friends with a guy who had committed this heinous crime against another black person, but you were able to show that person some sense of understanding and love.
Well, I think it's so important that we as a society stop judging people and try to find out who that person is. Mm-hmm. And as I say in my book, this Ku Klux Klansman was taught hate all his life. And just as he was taught hate, no one taught him love until he came to death row. And I often wonder, why is it that when someone is being taught hate, that the authority can't go into that home and rescue that child just like you would go if you seen a mark on his arm or something.
Yeah.
I think
because hatred is its own cancer. Hatred is its own cancer.
And this kid was being abused.
Yeah.
But society don't see him being abused by teaching him hate.
Yeah.
And so when he came to death row, and for 15 years, I, along with other black death row inmate, taught him what love was and convinced him to read a black man book. And
you had your own book club. He had his own book club. So he has the KKK member who is in prison and is sentenced to death for being a part of a hanging of a young black man. First time in 81 years a white man had ever been convicted of a crime and served time for killing a black man. And you have that guy reading James Baldwin.
And he was so excited. I mean, Henry deserved some compassion like everyone else. What people realize is that every man there has been found guilty of killing someone, whether they was white, whether they was black. I often ask the question, does it make a difference that this guy went into the church and killed 9 people? Would it make a difference if they had went in a bar and killed 9 people? We put value on certain people's lives. And I put the value that Henry deserved compassion, just as my mother have gave me compassion, like he had compassion. But I want to say this to those that listen. When Henry learned love, Henry was proud of it. Even going to his death, Henry said, all of my life, my dad had taught me to hate.
Hate black people.
To hate black people. He said, all of my life, the very people that my dad had taught me to hate are the very people that taught me how to love. And tonight I leave this world knowing what true love feel like. And to me, that was the most powerful thing that I learned and did on death row.
Yeah, and I would say he was one of the people. Somebody asked the question, who impressed you the most? Was he one of the people who impressed you the most?
Absolutely. And let's realize something. He was willing to change from hate to learn what love felt like. And I promise you, for those of you who never felt love, love is so fresh. It's just like this breeze we feel. It's cool and refreshing.
It's a nice Maui breeze. Yes, very nice. Feels like love.
Yes.
You know what a lot of people are saying? A lot of people are saying that this right here, that the two of you have, that is the definition of love, that this friendship is.
It is. I often tell him I wouldn't trade him for a Mercedes, but I have to think about it for a Rolls Royce. I might have to think about it.
So what's your biggest wish for your life right now?
My biggest wish for my life is that this country would end the death penalty. We don't need a death penalty in this country. I should be an example to people that innocent men and women do go to death row in this country. I don't want to use the word luck. I was blessed enough that someone got behind me and proved my innocence, and I feel bad for those that haven't been able to get someone to prove their innocence. And I just think when we kill an innocent person, we can't bring them back. And I can truly say that I never met anyone that was for the death penalty wanting innocent people to be executed. And so long as we have a death penalty, we're going to execute innocent people. And so the only way that we want to execute innocent people is the fact that we don't have a death penalty.
Yeah. So I've enjoyed, we've spent a half an hour. I thank you all so much for joining us here on my porch. It's been, can you believe the technology?
No, I cannot. I tell
Can
them
you
all the
believe,
time.
like, we're like all over the world talking to people right now, and they're talking to you.
I couldn't believe when that white lady told us in 1/10 of a mile, turn right, but she did.
You couldn't believe the GPS system when you got out of the car.
So,
yeah. But when I asked you that question, though, that lots of people are asking online, Gail wanted to know, and Helen LaFleur wanted to know, Heather LaFleur wanted to know about your dreams. Your dream, okay, for ending the death penalty.
Yes.
But what about you? What about you, Anthony Ray Hinton, your dream for yourself?
My dream for myself to be, if it's possible, to be whole again. If anyone out there is willing to try and make me whole again, I welcome it. Because I truly believe that I need to be whole.
And when you say whole again, what does that mean?
That's mean
because you still haven't had any therapy.
No. That's mean trusting people. That's mean being able to not drive and worry about being lied on by the police. I used to drive and didn't think about I need to be at home at a certain time, or I need to be on the phone where technology can say I was over on the south side instead of the west side in case something happened. And so when I say whole, I mean I want my life back the way it was when I was 29. Is that possible?
Oh.
And so I don't know, but
I don't think you can go back, Mr.
Oh,
Hinton.
no.
I don't think you can go back. I think you can build from here. I think you can take what you've gained and, feel the space maybe of what you lost, fill some of the space of what you lost.
Yes.
But you can't go back
No.
to what your life was at 29 because now your life has moved on, and so has the whole culture.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you, the sun does shine for everyone I know who's read it, and I'm reading all of your Facebook posts and your comments about this book. The thing that nobody can really understand is how you came out without being angry.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again, that question comes up. How could you be through all of this and not be angry?
Well, first and foremost, they had taken what they can take, 30 years of my life. And I think when you allow people to dictate your anger or your happiness, you're giving that person far too much power. And I just realized that I was not going to give them any more than what they had already taken. And so I had to ask something God higher to remove the hatred from my heart, because I won't sit here and lie to you. The first 3 years in that dog's hole that I was in, all I thought about is revenge. I breathed it, I lived it, I slept it, I woke up thinking about that. And then I realized that the very thing that was keeping me alive was also killing me. And so I said, this is not who I am, this is not the way I was brought up, and I got to let this hatred go.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important revelation for anybody who's hearing us now, that you don't have to be in a darkened 5x7 cell, unjustly sentenced to death, to be carrying revenge in your heart. If you're carrying revenge in your heart, if you're jealous, if you're holding a grudge against somebody, that's killing you as much as you would want to kill them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it is. It was destroying you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't laugh, and I had to fake when they come, and I didn't want him to read that, because we've been knowing each other. I didn't want him to say, hey, Ray is kind of not the same today.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be the person that I know I was, and that's the person that loved to laugh and make other people laugh. But I want people to realize forgiveness is not about the other person. It's about you. I didn't forgive them because they asked me. I didn't forgive them because it was, as they say, so they could sleep good at night. I forgave them so I could sleep good at night. And so it was nothing about them. For once in my life, it was about me. And I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be as whole and complete as I could possibly be. And the only way you can do that is you got to forgive those that mistreated you.
Can you honestly say, though, that you've forgiven those people who jailed you?
I have, because I don't think about them until someone asks me. For whatever reason, the main prosecutor, he is dead.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but he's in hell because he was too racist not to ask God. I truly don't believe he asked God for forgiveness. And the other 5 or 6 is suffering from old timers, and so I don't try to keep up with them. I do hope, I forgive them, and I hope they have come to their senses and found a way to forgive themselves for what they did to me.
Yeah. Well, I was saying that I don't know a person who has read the book who hasn't been impacted by the love between you two as friends, and who hasn't been impacted by the strength of character, the moral center that you have shown and allowed to eliminate throughout the pages and also through your life. This moral center, this ability to be a real man, which is what we need in our times now more than ever. The book is called The Sun Does Shine. Even if you're not going to read it, get it, pass it on to a friend. I think this man deserves, Mr. Hinton, is a really good human being and deserves to have the rest of his days lived in comfort and security, and you buying the book can help that. So thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the porch.
We're live.
We're live. Don't say nothing you don't want nobody to hear. Right. Okay? We're going to lunch now. We're going to lunch. All right. Let's see if we can get some more biscuits.
Absolutely. They were meditation.
Yeah. Get some more biscuits, y'all. Yeah.